Okay, so let's continue our dive into personality a little bit. And we'll start to talk about humanism. And before we get into it, this is a little activity that you can do. It's better done if administered by somebody else who can kind of help with timing. But the idea behind humanism is that in our personalities, we're looking for spaces to work towards our ideal self or self actualization, right? And that the humanists believe that there's certain steps and stages that must be undertaken before we can reach those levels, right? So this Carl Rogers self-assessment for congruence is one of those, right? So you can take this on your own. We'll be doing it in class as well. If anybody is in class, then you'll get a chance to kind of check your own congruence. Okay. So when we're thinking of the perspective, right, we're looking at the whole person and the uniqueness of each individual and what that individual is able to do in terms of reaching that self actualization type um, placement in their persona. And we'll look at their personality and their behavior through themselves as well as outward observers, right? So, how they feel about themselves and how others are perceiving them. Okay. So, we'll look at things like free will or personal agency. Okay. This is taking a look at some of those nature nurture type discussions before of, you know, what helps make these decisions, right? Are a lot of them based upon our environment and who we hang out with, our own disposition, our genetics, and so on. We'll take a look at this paradigm between subjective perception. Is it greater than objective reality, right? If you believe something, is that greater than whether that's actually the case or not? We can look at that in terms of athletics. If you believe you're the best at something, is that stronger, more powerful, more meaningful than actually being the best at something? Right. And up to debate on there. And then Maslow and Rogers are two key figures in this. We look at Maslow, and while his hierarchy of needs has always come under some scrutiny ever since its creation has been adapted a few times. The basics of it has essentially stayed the same and stood the test of times. So at the bottom, you're going to have to take a look at these basic need levels. You can see they're bigger, right? So they're more important. It's a greater foundation. It starts with stuff like physiological need. Physiological need is the stuff like warmth and food and sleep and all that kind of stuff. Next is safety needs. The need to feel safe and secure in your person. If you're not either of these things, that's the most important thing in your world, and you must address it to survive so you can't climb your way up that hierarchy. Then is belongingness and love. So if you've got your food and your shelter, you feel safe. Now you can look for attachment, you can look for love, companionship, friendship, and then esteem needs. Once you get to that point, then you can get the reassurance that you're doing things right, that you're smart, that you're good, that you're all doing all those other types of things. Then we start to look for these, growth or, if you would look at it, being or existence needs. Next is the need to be known or understood, right? Be able to be heard, have a seat at the table, have a discussion, have people believe you or value your opinion. Next is stuff like aesthetic needs. And those are going to be more your kind of materialistic type stuff of how you look and get reassurance on that and how you're perceived in that community. Next, we get to self actualization. And that's where you've kind of gotten past those middle ground needs and you're actually extremely content in yourself and are operating at the most efficient and best capabilities that you possibly can. And then the very tip of it that has been added is transcendence. And that's where we've reached self-actualization. You're maximizing your abilities and potential, but now you're able to go beyond that and help others. So you're able to start to give back. whether that's philanthropically, whether that's mentoring, or anything like that. Okay. And then we got Roger's self theory, okay, that he also was a big proponent of the pursuit of self actualization, okay, but believed more strongly that your environment will help decide how and or if you have a chance of achieving that. Okay. And starting at a very young age, and we talked about some of those stages, especially the emotional stages, that children need self worth and positive regard. They need to be cared for, they need to be loved, they need to be reassured, guided, challenged, etc. So, one of the things that came out of Rogers' theory that we can touch upon here is these five characteristics of a full functioning person, right? So, somebody that is working at a high level, a high capacity. One is being open to experience, not denying feelings. So, not shutting down or being afraid to feel sad or angry, accepting it, understanding it, channeling it, and so on. Existential living, living in the moment, being able to slow things down, really think about it, analyze situations that they're in, make the most of their time, whatever the task is that they're doing. Trust their feelings, okay, being able to pay attention to their gut and their intuition, knowing enough to not, excuse me, have to trust everybody else to be able to use your own intuition to decide whether this is a good idea, bad idea, good deal, bad deal, worthwhile friendship or not, etc. Next, we have creativity, right? Thinking outside the box, taking some risks, doing things differently, pushing back against the norm. And then finally, fulfilled life, right? When you sit back, are you truly happy, satisfied? And so, are you looking for new challenges to be able to continue to grow and learn more about various needs and interests and etc. Okay. So here's where we're getting to the second half of Rogers' congruence test. So you can get on the note slides and you can kind of try to do this yourself, or you can wait to maybe do it in class. But what we're really doing with that is we're looking for this, right? We're testing for congruence. Okay, congruence is how similar something is. So what you would be asked to do is you're asked to come up with what you believe your self-image is, kind of who you are, using various trait adjectives, and then you're also going to look at your ideal self. If there are things that you may want to change or want to be better at or alter how good or important they are to your in your life. And then we're measuring congruence. And for congruence, we're really looking at this area in the middle. So how much do those two overlap? Uh, in a self-actualization situation, you want them both to completely overlap. So you want your ideal self and your true self-image to be one and the same, that you are the best possible self that you could be. Okay. And that's the idea. So when you're taking that quiz, the higher the score, the better, because that score is identifying that more of your self-image and ideal self are overlapping. So you're working closer towards your self-actualization.